There was a time when owning a car meant owning a car. The whole thing. The steel, the glass, the engine, and every secret it held under the hood. If it broke, you fixed it. Or your neighbor did, or the independent shop 2 blocks over, the one with the hand painted sign, and the owner who knew your name. You bought the part at the auto parts store, you turned the wrench in your own driveway, and the machine was yours to understand, to maintain, and to keep running for as long as you were willing to care for it. That world is ending, quietly, deliberately, and most people who just sign for a new car have no idea it's already gone. Here is the truth nobody at the dealership will say out loud. When you buy a modern vehicle, you own the physical shell, the body, the seats, the rubber, and the steel, but you do not own the thing that makes it run. You do not own the software. You do not own the data. You do not own the digital permissions required to repair it, to replace its parts, or in some cases to keep it operating at all. You own the car. The manufacturer owns the keys to the car's mind, and they have spent the last decade quietly building a system where every repair, every part, and every diagnostic now requires their permission they can charge for, restrict, or deny. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is an engineering and legal reality assembled in plain sight, one software lock at a time. And in 2026, it crossed a threshold that should concern anyone who owns or plans to own a vehicle. Today, we are going to walk through exactly how it happened, the telematics betrayal that just played out in Congress, the parts pairing locks that can turn a working component into dead weight, the secure gateway paywalls strangling your local mechanic, and the end game, the disposable car, structurally perfect, rendered worthless by a server that stopped responding. This is the story of how ownership became a subscription and how almost nobody noticed. To understand what you've lost, you first have to understand what your car now knows about itself and who it tells. For decades, diagnosing a car meant plugging into a port, the OBD-II port, the standardized connector mandated under your dashboard since the mid-1990s let any mechanic anywhere read the car's fault codes with a scan tool. It was the great equalizer. The independent shop and the dealership had the same access. The data lived in the car, and whoever held the car held the data. That model is now obsolete, and the manufacturers engineered its replacement specifically to cut the independent out. Modern vehicles don't wait for someone to plug in. They are connected continuously to the manufacturer's servers over cellular networks. This is telematics. Your car is streaming data about itself in real time. How the engine is performing, which sensors are drifting, what is about to fail. The car often knows a component is dying before you feel a single symptom, and that predictive data does not go to you. It does not go to your mechanic. It goes over the air, straight to the manufacturer. Think about what that means competitively. When your car detects an impending fault, the manufacturer knows first. They can reach out through the app, through a service reminder, through the dealership, and capture the repair before your independent mechanic ever sees the car. The local shop is structurally blind to information your car is broadcasting to a corporation 1,000 miles away. The independent repair industry saw this coming. They fought for years to force automakers to share that wireless data, to extend the old OBD-II fairness into the connected era. That fight had a name, the Repair Act, and in 2026, it reached Congress. Here's what actually happened. On May 21st, 2026, the House Energy and Commerce Committee took up the Motor Vehicle Modernization Act, House Resolution 7389, which had absorbed the right to repair provisions. The committee passed it by a vote of 48-1. On the surface, that sounds like a win for repair rights, and in a narrow sense, part of it was. The bill codified existing agreements, the 2014 and 2015 memorandums of understanding that require automakers to share traditional repair and diagnostic information with independent shops, and it gave the Federal Trade Commission the power to enforce them. But read what the committee took out. They strip the broader provisions, the ones covering telematics and direct wireless data access, the exact thing that matters most in a connected car, gone. The committee narrowed the bill to cover the old plug-in world and left the wireless future, the future every new car already lives in, unregulated. Instead of guaranteeing access to wireless data, the bill merely directs the FTC to study the issue and report back to Congress within 4 years. A study, 4 years. While every new vehicle sold in the meantime streams its data exclusively to its manufacturer, the lead sponsor of the original Repair Act, Representative Neil Dunn of Florida, said it plainly. He said the version the committee approved does not fully reflect the original bill and fails to protect consumers, independent repair shops, and aftermarket manufacturers. The man who wrote it told you it does not do the job. So here is where it stands. The physical port is protected. The wireless monopoly is not. And since the entire industry is moving away from the physical port and toward wireless data, the law protected the past and surrendered the future. The data your car generates, data about a machine you paid for, legally belongs to the company that built it, not to you. That is the Telematics Betrayal, and it is now baked into the framework of federal law. The data monopoly is the front door. Parts pairing is the deadbolt. Here is the concept in plain terms. In a modern vehicle, individual components are no longer just mechanical parts. They carry software identities. And the manufacturer can lock a component so that it only functions when it has been digitally married, paired to one specific vehicle by its VIN through a cryptographic handshake that only the manufacturer can authorize. If you have ever replaced the screen on a recent smartphone and watched it throw warnings, lose features, or disable functions because the new screen was not genuine, you already understand parts pairing. The automakers took that model and applied it to 2-ton machines. Walk through what this does in practice. Say a transmission fails. In the old world, you would source a good used transmission from a salvage yard, pulled from a wrecked vehicle of the same model, mechanically perfect, a fraction of the cost of new. You would bolt it in and you would drive away. That was the entire foundation of affordable repair. The junkyard, the salvage economy, the second life of good parts from dead cars. Now, that same transmission, mechanically flawless, bolts in fine, connects fine, and does nothing because its software identity does not match the car. The vehicle computer rejects it. It throws the car into limp mode or refuses to engage at all until a manufacturer-authorized technician performs the digital handshake for a fee through a system only they control. It is not just transmissions. It is headlights that will not illuminate because the module is not paired. It is window switches that will not function. It is batteries, cameras, sensors, control modules, perfectly good hardware rendered inert by a missing cryptographic token. Think about what this destroys. The salvage yard inventory is suddenly worthless for repair because the parts cannot be paired into another vehicle. The aftermarket manufacturer who makes a quality replacement part for a third of the dealer price is locked out because their part cannot get the handshake. And you, the owner, are funneled into buying a brand new manufacturer-authorized part installed by a manufacturer-authorized shop at a manufacturer-authorized price. An entire ecosystem is being switched off, one paired component at a time. Junkyards, aftermarket suppliers, independent rebuilders, the whole affordable repair economy that working people have relied on for a century. Not because the old parts stopped working, because the manufacturer stopped permitting them to work. So the data flows only to the manufacturer. The parts only work with the manufacturer's blessing. And now we arrive at the toll booth that finishes off your local mechanic, the secure gateway. In the name of cybersecurity, a real concern used here as a convenient justification, automakers have installed what are called secure gateway modules in their vehicles. These act as a locked door between the diagnostic port and the car's internal systems. To do anything beyond reading the most basic information, to clear a code, to perform a recalibration, to talk to the car's actual computers, a technician now has to authenticate through that gateway. And authentication is not free. It requires a registered account with the manufacturer, a subscription, a recurring fee per brand. Sit with that. An independent shop services every make that rolls through the door: Ford, General Motors, Toyota, Honda, Stellantis, Volkswagen, Hyundai, and on and on. To keep working on all of them, that one small shop now has to maintain separate paid accounts, separate subscriptions, separate logins, separate recurring fees with a dozen or more manufacturers, each one a toll booth, each one a bill, each one a login that can be revoked, repriced, or restricted at the manufacturer's discretion. For a dealership backed by a corporation, that is a rounding error. For the independent shop running on thin margins, the kind of shop that has fixed your family's cars for 30 years, it is a slow financial strangulation. Every subscription is overhead the dealership does not really feel, and the independent cannot really afford. The math is brutal and intentional. Stack enough recurring per brand fees onto a small business and you do not have to ban independent repair. You just make it uneconomical. The shop drops the brands it cannot afford to service, then it drops more, then it closes. And every time one closes, the only remaining option in town is the dealership service department and the most expensive repair channel that exists, now operating with less and less competition to hold its prices down. This is not a market outcome. It is an engineered one. The secure gateway did not have to be a paywall. It was designed as one. And the result is exactly what you would predict: fewer independents, higher prices, and a customer with nowhere else to go. Now follow every thread we've pulled to its logical end. The data belongs to the manufacturer. The parts require the manufacturer's permission. The repairs require the manufacturer's gateway. What do you actually own? You own a machine that runs only as long as a corporation continues to permit it to run, and that permission has an expiration date most buyers never consider. A modern vehicle is increasingly dependent on remote servers for authentication, for feature activation, for the connected services woven into its basic operation. Those servers cost money to maintain. And one day, for any model you can name, the manufacturer will decide that a 12-year-old vehicle's software backend is no longer worth supporting. The server gets retired. The support ends. What happens to the car? In the old world, a 12-year-old car was just getting broken in. Keep the fluids changed and the rust at bay, and it would run for another decade. The mechanical reality was all that mattered. But when a car's essential functions depend on phoning home to a server that no longer answers, when features disable, when parts can no longer be paired, when the digital handshake has no one left to shake hands with, a structurally flawless vehicle becomes a paperweight. Perfect body, sound engine. Dead because the permission layer it depended on was switched off. We have seen the preview of this already. Connected car features that stopped working when a company shut down its servers. Vehicles whose smart functions went dark when the manufacturer pulled support. Automakers that went under entirely and took their authentication servers with them, leaving owners holding cars that nobody anywhere can fully service. This is the shift, stated plainly. We are moving from vehicle ownership to vehicle licensing, from a machine you possess to a service you rent, a service that can be degraded, restricted, or terminated by a company whose interests are not aligned with keeping your old car on the road. They do not profit from your 15-year-old vehicle running well. They profit from you buying the next one. And here is the part that should sober anyone watching. This is not unique to cars. Cars are simply the largest, most essential, most expensive machine the permission economy has captured so far. The same logic, meaning software locks, parts pairing, server dependency, and the erosion of repair, is spreading into tractors, appliances, medical devices, the tools that hospitals and farms and households depend on to function. A society that cannot repair its own essential machines is a society that does not truly own them. It rents them on terms set by someone else, revocable at will. For most of human history, if you own the thing, you controlled the thing. That equation is being quietly rewritten, and the rewrite is nearly complete. You still own the steel, you still own the glass. But the right to keep it running, the most basic right of ownership there is being taken from you. One software lock, one stripped provision, one retired server at a time. The wrench still fits the bolt. They just took away your permission to turn it.